Well, there are some states, Rajesh, which have come out with pretty much they've copied the Central Act. Some states have actually dilution, if at all you call it dilution, is only for ongoing projects where developers is saying that you cannot have any law which is retrospective. But all new projects, any which way, have to be now RERA registered and have huge penalties for any delays, etc. You tell us, I mean, how have you seen, does RERA give you more confidence of doing business in India now? And how is it going to change the landscape?
Well, RERA for India is a welcome step by the government, and being in a democratic country, it is the government's responsibility to ensure that none of their people are fleeced by a few handful of entrepreneurs who call themselves as developers or builders. So I think RERA is the game changer, and post-independent India, for the first time in a business which has seen muscle power and a lot of illegal wealth being used for doing the business, it's been put to a stop by the authority, and this is a welcome change. A lot of people who are first-time buyers and a lot of people who are investors staying abroad, like the non-residents Indians, have now regained their faith to invest into India as a country. And on the face of planet Earth, the fastest growing economy with the largest customer base is India. The only thing missing was the law of the regulation. The regulation was missing. Now that piece coming in, India is the most economical country in the world as far as housing is concerned, or real estate is concerned. With RERA coming in, of course, any regulation makes the product a little expensive, but it will be a lot of safety and comfort in the minds of the investor or the buyer, who will be ensured that the delivery will be ultimately taken and monitored by the authority if the entrepreneur, called the developer or the builder, doesn't perform in time, in terms of quality, in terms of promises made. And the brochure today is considered as a promissory note. So when a brochure is printed by the builder, government has understood that this is the promise is making to the customer, and they have taken the onus to ensure that everything mentioned in the brochure actually goes to the buyer.
So you can't actually rip off beautiful looking Dubai buildings and show them as your project in India anymore. That was happening.
Builders have even stopped printing the photos of models because the buyer can demand them at the house also. So it is that serious now.
All right, you can't even have models on, well, that whole debate also happened on whether you should have celebrities endorsing your project. You've been dealing with a lot of developers in the community. Do you think that the industry is going to see a shakeout? Because it's in this kind of a stringent environment, Rajesh. It's not easy for small-time developers who do not have their processes in place, or have been doing work in a professional manner to actually survive anymore, is there?
So in fact, out of the 76,000 developers that India has, according to the numbers that you just spelled out, yes, majority of them are already into the exit route. In fact, they are looking out places like Hamria Free Zone and other places across the world where they can do investments and start other businesses. They are actually taking exit from the real estate development as a sector. The fear is to those people who don't follow the rule book. The fear is to those people who don't want to understand the rule of the land, that's all. But there are new developers coming in. There are more qualified. When I say qualified, qualification does not necessarily mean only the educational background, but the know-how of the industry and how they should be operating to the market, which will benefit the customer. So a lot of things are changing. A lot of corporates have started venturing into the housing industry and the development industry. And even RERA is not only going to be making sure that they are monitoring the progress of a developer or the happiness of a consumer, but RERA will also ensure that whatever bottlenecks a developer faces during the process of doing business, as developers, as a developer, I can go to the regulatory authority and talk to the authority that this particular department is not cooperative in terms of timelines and are creating nasty problems for me to proceed further with the development. Even in those cases, it is not only going to be helping the customer, but it is also going to be supporting the developer from government authorities to make sure that there is a full flow and cooperation for the project to go forward. So I think this is a fantastic scenario which is coming up. And with this regulation also, like you said, that the houses are being made first and then the roads are getting made. Through this kind of regulations, a lot of contribution is now happening thanks to GST and policies like RERA. A lot of contribution is happening to the government coffers, which is making sure that fast development of infrastructure is taking place, which is again a very positive note, because the infrastructure is a good environment to start your real estate development business. So these are all positive notes which are happening, and we are seeing the phase of change happening in a very, very rapid manner.
All right. Rajesh, coupled with both RERA and GST, have completely changed the landscape, isn't it? Is it true that, I mean, the numbers which I get are not more than 1,000 developers are going to survive? Is 1,000 too large a number still, you feel, for all India, or the kind of intricacies that India has? You have tiny houses to large homes being made, or that's a fair enough number for this industry to grow?
Well, I guess it will be far more than 1,000 developers, because when you talk about a population of more than 1.2 billion people, you definitely need to have a lot of suppliers in terms of homes or offices. So that's going to be the case. But like my colleague said, demonetization, RERA and GST are the game changers. The advantage is today the major input cost in any development is the land price. It's all the rest of the things that you use above the land are consumables. They are not the raw materials. The raw material is land. Because of a lot of cash component dealings which were happening in the real estate business, especially for transacting in land, the housing used to become pretty expensive. Now that scenario has changed. Land transactions are stuck. So joint ventures are started happening at the right prices because there are two less takers. So the landlord's expectations have mellowed down. When the land input cost to a development project is economical, you can really start constructing affordable houses, or you can start constructing affordable luxury. So it is becoming more economical. The prices are getting corrected. So there is two formats of real estate available in India today. One is pre-RERA, one is going to be post-RERA. The pre-RERA real estate, which is the unsold units, are again having two types of real estate. One is the real estate which has got no RERA clearance, they cannot be sold even if there is a buyer. And the second is a real estate which is unsold, which has got RERA clearance. The projects which are having RERA clearance will be sold. Those developers will make money, but they have to recorrect their prices, which have already happened. The slow sales will always give a recorrection. Ultimately, it is the buyer who benefits. The new projects post-RERA which are coming up, the land is coming at the right prices, because no more ever in India will land be purchased for development of housing or commercial properties. It will always be a joint venture between the landlord and a developer. It's going to be an effort-based activity. It is not going to be capital-intensive activity. It is going to be the knowledge of the developer of what to build, how to build, where to build, what quality to build, and what price to sell at. So I think this will dramatically change things. All the people who are invested in land don't have land buyers. So for them to monetize on their investments done, when they want the kind of multiples that they were expecting when they were the investments, can happen only through joint ventures. For developers like us who are entrepreneurs, not developers, for developers like us, it's a golden opportunity, thanks to the government of India, thanks to demonetization, thanks to GST, and thanks to RERA, that we will get brilliant opportunities across the country, multiple cities, and it is a leveler. RERA is a leveler. All players, irrespective of your size, are at the same platform. Whether the guy is 10 times bigger than me or 10 times smaller than me, we have the same rules to follow, same regulations to happen, and the same market to have joint ventures happening and creating products for the masses.
Has it restored some amount of faith? Because, you know, for NRIs specifically, Rajesh, they're not living in the country. They have this emotional connect. We must have a home in India, right? They have family there, they have friends there, relatives there, and sometimes they also want to go back to their country and settle down after retirement for emotional reasons. Though I wonder why anybody would want to leave Dubai and go back to India, but people do. People do, because emotional connects sometimes far supersede beautiful roads. Honestly, that's the bottom line. It is. Do you think now they should be confident that, hey, listen, whatever I'm buying in India, if it's RERA registered, I am safe?
So the last few months have been the best months for the real estate industry, for specifically me and my group, purely because RERA is our advertiser. And RERA has really classified developers into RERA compliant and RERA non-compliant categories. So RERA is not only a booster for the buyers, but RERA is also a booster for the sellers. There is a great deal of confidence in people, because people living in UAE are accustomed to the law called RERA. They know how stringent it is. Like in Dubai, you can't mess up with any buyer at all. No developer has that leeway. In fact, the buyer's money is controlled by the government in the escrow account. So now the confidence of NRIs has multiplied. A lot of NRI buying has started happening, and a lot of foreign direct investments are happening in the realty sector in the country, because now they see a ray of hope and they see a brilliant opportunity waiting for them, where their entry point, thanks to the still being developed infrastructure of the country, their entry point is very nominal compared to the benefits that they can reap when the country is developing at a fast pace. So I think Maharera or RERA across the states are today promoters of the right developers. They are the advertising billboards for the right developers who follow the rules and regulations, because ultimately when a buyer goes to buy my product, when he checks my credentials on the RERA website, it is the RERA website which is giving him confidence to buy into my project. So I see government as doing free advertisements for developers who are playing by the rule book. So this is a very interesting times that we are seeing.
Absolutely. You say RERA registered and that itself becomes a marketing tool, isn't it?
Yes, 100%.
It's like the ISI benchmark. All right.
Yeah. Yes, I have paid the entire amount of my flat before 1st July.
Right.
Right? So I have to pay the VAT now, or I have to pay the service tax on that?
Is your house complete?
Yeah, it is near completion. Because my builder called me, yes, you pay deposit, you pay your all the dues before 1st July, otherwise you have to pay the GST at 12% or something else. While the service tax is 4.5%, I think.
No, so, but your payment, the builder would have anyway taken away 90% of your money already, right?
I have paid 100%.
So you paid 100%, so then there is not much remaining. So what is he going to charge you tax on?
He's saying for service tax we have to pay.
No, so what he's saying is right. He has paid his entire amount. So now GST is not applicable because he's done it before 1st of July. So he's paid the service tax, which is lower, 4.5%.
Yeah.
So he's not exposed to the risk of 12% or 18% of GST. So he's safe. His payment is done.
So I have to pay only 4.5% service tax on that, no?
If you have paid it before 1st of July, you're
Yeah,
free.
I have paid before 1st July, yes, sir.
Yes.
Because my builder was asking us to pay before 1st July, otherwise you have to pay 12%.
So that was another advantage, Manisha, of GST coming up, because a lot of developers who had all permissions in place really collected the outstandings under
Yeah.
the threat of
Yes,
GST.
12%, yes. They were
So
saying
because there is a
12%
difference between 4.5% to 12%.
Yes, 8% we were saving.
Yeah, so you are saving quite a sizable amount. So a lot of developers also became immediately cash rich
Yeah.
for the units which were sold, and outstanding payments were there, which were as per the work progress. A lot of buyers, out of anxiety of saving that 6.5%, 7.5% or 8%, really actually paid up the outstanding amount and flushed the developers with money, which is now being controlled by RERA to complete the same project.
Yeah.
We hope so it's being controlled by RERA.
Yes, they were saying choice is yours. You want to pay 12% or 4.5%.
So there is a point to differ over here, Manisha. What's happening is GST is a different act altogether. It's not, so the developer is making it as a selling tool to absorb that GST, or threatening it that if you don't close by this and this time, I will make GST applicable. And GST is much higher compared to the service tax.
Yeah.
Service tax was almost 4.5%, whereas your GST is 12%. They say 18%, but if you technically calculate, it comes to around, it comes to around 12%. So GST is definitely higher, and today nobody can escape GST. Somebody is paying for the GST. Either the customer is paying for the GST or the developer is paying for the GST. The GST decision depends on the urgency of the developer to sell his pending stock, his requirement for the money. It is situational. So a developer might say, okay, although the GST is 12%, I will exempt you if you take the buying decision today. So for the buyer, it is a 12% discount. So it all depends on the decision and the strategy that individual developer is taking according to the scenario that he is in. As far as GST is concerned, GST has to be paid. Whether it is developer or whether it is customer, doesn't matter. The government wants GST.
Okay, great.
So my name is Rohit Raul, I'm from Mumbai, and I myself a developer. See, whenever the new regulation comes into place, not pointing finger directly at you, but where the professionals are the people who actually they start showing the loopholes. So how foolproof is the RERA? And another question to Rajesh. Looking at the entire scenario in the interest of the buyers as well as the developers, do you really think there are some conditions need to be softened by the government in the interest of both the parties?
Well, one calculation which has gone wrong, because of which home buying has become a little expensive, because GST is 18% and for land they have set off 6%. The value of land changes from location to location, city to city.
Yeah.
The price of land in Bombay and the price of land in, for example, Jaipur or in Ahmedabad will be different, but they have kept the same benchmark. So that's financially a big hit to the buyer. Ultimately, it is the buyer who is going to be paying it. So that's a calculation which has gone wrong. As far as the other question that you were asking, whether the professionals give loopholes to the developers to commit mistakes so that they are not caught and they make a premium on a project which has got lesser profits if not done. So for that, I would always suggest every buyer that like a developer has a profile and has a goodwill or a bad will, similarly, professionals also get identified in a similar light. So always check out who the professionals are involved with a particular project. Always ask two questions. Who is the law firm with the company, the developer company, and who's the architect with the developer company? The development business will rest on these two professionals. So there are professionals who have got extraordinary goodwill in the market, and where you can be assured that if this is the law firm for this particular project, eyes closed, go ahead and do the transaction, irrespective of RERA. Now today, RERA is in place and it supersedes everything. But as a general benchmark, whenever you need to say that so-and-so is the law firm and so-and-so is the architect, there you can make a decision whether you want to invest or not invest. It was actually a helping tool.
Thank you.
All right. We've got time to take two more questions, so let's quickly. No? Okay, one question.
Hello, I am Sudhir Ambardekar, architect from Mumbai.
Yes.
You said developers are bound by RERA, right? Will they be able to take disadvantage of by shouldering their on local authorities delay, and for that delay is happening in the project? Then where buyers stand in this all scenario?
Right.
And lastly, and important from my point of view, I am a professional architect, where the professional is safe in this all activity by RERA.
No, architects are not safe. Architects and structural engineers and chartered accountants are not safe.
No, but they have a dominant role. Every time money is taken out of the separate bank account, he has to give
Only the lawyers are safe.
Huh.
Not technical, because there is a self-auditing system which is in place. So when a developer wants to withdraw money from the escrow account, he needs to get certified by the architect, by the structural engineer and the chartered accountant. The chartered accountant cannot be his regular auditor, he should be an external auditor. If these three people or any one of them try to manipulate the documents just for the withdrawal of the money by the developer, he will be criminally held responsible for that transaction, and this can be opened up on any customer's complaint, or the authority can also have a suo motu opportunity to open up a case if they come to know about it and file suits against the professional and also the developer. So it's a fantastic foolproof system where the buyer is in totality protected. So the architect is exposed not only to irregularities in the structure, those days are gone, that cannot be done now. Corporations are very strict. But even for certifications for faster withdrawals of money is going to be a criminal action on the professionals. The loophole is the whole act of RERA is purely created so that the project funds from one project cannot be diverted to some other project. Now, just because you are going by the rule book does not permit you to withdraw money before the due stage. Now, project is going fine, but he is withdrawn money before the due stage. He is completing the project on time. Even then, it is not legally right for him to withdraw money before his turn of withdrawal. Now, to do that, if the professionals help him with the certification, then they are in the wrong. The professionals are in the wrong. So it's like whether you know or not, you cannot withdraw the money out of turn.
So what I'm sensing is that the buyers are safe for once.
Yes,
and after
yes,
all.
yes.
So all of these guys, whether it's a developer, architect, lawyer, chartered accountant, they can all be held responsible. Buyers will get their flats.